Hi Janathan, could you
Yeah,
please open your PPT and explain the questions?
yes, Kasturika. Good morning, Kasturika. My name is Janardhan. Today I will explain about the user variables. So, in the coming to the PPT, so what is the user variable? User variable is it is the restriction for the members in the entity or any other dimensions to the users to restrict the work and concentration on the particular members. In the second slide, so in this topic, we'll be able to see how use the usage of user variables in the following articles in data forms and runtime prompt, business rules and motive. In the next slide, what is the user variable? User variable is the to restrict the members for the entity or any other dimensions to access to the users for reflection of the particular entity or any other dimensions or accounts like likewise, and what is the difference between the user variable and substitution variable? Substitution variable it is the globally placeholder for the changing the information regularly, and user variable is the it is the restriction for the member user to a particular entity or the in the members. So, which use case do we use user variable over the substitution variable? For example, I will take the one example. I have in India, we have multiple branches in our organization. So in this organization, each one location they have the each one manager, Hyderabad and Bangalore or Pune. So each one location they have respected managers. So they want to only see their data in particular location. In that way, in that scenario, we will assign the user variable. So this user variable they can see only what they want to their data and they will be able to see. That's the purpose we are creating the user web. And the next point, can you show me how to use a create a user variable from the following use cases? So in this point, I will show the navigation. First, go to the home and the navigator and click on the tools under the tools variables. So before that, I have created one entity likewise a user entity and level 0 descendant. So I'm editing this one. So when we create the new dimension user variable, it is showing like this. Then I have to select the members, which is my presentation. They have given the use case one. So in use case one, assume user one is the owner of the any two entities. Assign those two entities as values to the entity dimension. So in the note, since we don't have the list of users in the application, try to explain how user variable behaves by using the admin user only by using the use case assumptions below. So I'm using the this use case one. I'm assume the user one is the owner of the any two entities. So I am assigning the two entities values in the entity dimension. Then go back to the application and select the members, which is we have the created the entity dimension. For that, I am selecting the C and selecting two entities, which is the use case one. Likewise, I am selecting the two entities. So then click on save. So next, coming to the PPT and the next slide. So can you reuse any of the data forms and show me how to use the user variable as per use case one from slide 3. In the slide 3, I have selected two entities for the user one. So here is the he said, can you reuse any data forms? Yes, can you reuse the data forms which is I have created earlier. So in the second point, can you explain how user one can access the data form? Yes, he can access the data form, which is created based on the above question. in detail how the entities are restricted to the two entities of the ownership. Then I will show the how to access the ownership. First, after the creation of the entity members, you have to select the use context. In the case, which is the last line, in this slide, they have said as the admin user only you by using the use case. So in that scenario, we have to select the use context. So if you not selected use context, you have to go to the user variable, user preferences. Under the tools bar, it was loading. So if I did not selected the user entity, it will shows here. So it is the selecting the user, which is in the case user one. He can access here and he can select the entity members here, which he want to he can select it. So as the administrator, I can select use context. If I select use context, user I not able to select the user preferences. So then I am selecting the use context, which is given the note in the presentation. Then I am selecting save. It was successfully saved. And coming to the slide. So in the slide, should user one supposed to access of any the entities other than the two entities he owns in the data form? No, he cannot access the other than which is have given own have data forms. So in the user requirement, can you show me how to enable your dynamic user variable? So coming to the application and go to the forms. The forms, I'm selecting the monthly variable, which is I have created earlier, and go to the layout and given the user entity and go to the other options. In the other options, I can give the enable the dynamic user variable. So which is I have created in the user variable in user entity. I can able to add it here. Before this selection, this form is like showing this. So when I am enable the dynamic user variable, it will ready to add the dynamic user variable. So then after I have added the user entity and then click on save. Likewise, we can add here as the dynamic user variable. So coming to the slide, and the next user requirement is take any parent entity as an example. Show how only the children of that parent entity are filtered in the data form. Yes, we can filter as the only children in the user variable. So go to the user variable and select which is we have created and go to the settings option and remove all and go to the total geographies. Take any parent as he given the use case and I am selecting the C is the parent and I am selecting the functions and click on the level 0 descendants. Then click on OK. Then save it. So then go to the forms. After creating the parent and the children, then open the form and go to the layout, which is I have given. I am removing this one. I am showing again how to add in the user variable in the form. So go to the variables and select the user entity. So add it here and then click on OK and save it. Then go to the preview. In the preview option, we can able the see how the parent under the children, which is the use case 2. Application is bit slow, that's why it is not showing. and go to the preview. So before that it was unable to create the use context. So go to the user variable and I am using the use context. Right, it was disabled, and go to the user preferences under the tools bar. Go to the user preferences. So go to the user preference and select the which you want to, you can select here and save it. So user preference have saved, and go to the forms and edit the which is created the form, and go to the other options and enable the user entity. So save it and go to the preview. So in here you can select the user entity, which is I created the user variable, and under this they have asked for the take any parent entity as an example. So how only the children of that parent entity are filtered in the data form. Likewise, we can filter the only member of the parent entity. So we can choose here we unable to select the parent entity. That's why he asked for the only members of the parent entity. So likewise, we can create the parent entity under the members children entity. So then go to the presentation, and the next point is when the data form is the saved, and the business rule should run only in the context of the entity selection made. So he said in the fourth point, after the creation of the data form, business only run the only in the context of the entity selection mode. So going to next slide. And the next slide, usage of the user variable in the RTP. Can we use user variable in the RTP? Yes, we can use the user variable in the RTP. And then next point is, if yes, can you limit the user variable in the RTP to able to restrict the user one from the accessing entities other than the he owns? So we can restrict the members in the RTP. So in the third point, use this RTP in the business rule. Show me how it works. So go to the navigation and close the form and finish it. Go to the home page and the navigator. Select the create and manage under the rule. Create and manage. We can select the rules card. Then click on the EPM cloud and click on the actions. Click variable designer and expand the EPM cloud and click on the global. So here we can create the RTP for the business rule. Then click on the new option. In here we can give the name as the which is I am giving the entity one. So because of I have created already entity, that's repeated name it won't be taken. So I have given the name and select the members because of we are working on the members. Which dimension we are creating, and you have to select here dimension type, and I am working on entity dimension, and click on the RTP, which is if you enable this one, it will activate it. If you do not activate, click on this, it won't be activated here. So likewise, I enable this one, and which is created in the user variable, you have to given that one in the RTP. So I am copying this one to give in the RTP and give the name and give the ampersand and give this one like again. If any text is there, and click on here, and after that giving the all the required dimension type and limits and default value and the RTP text, we have to save. So in the presentation, they have asked for the limit in the user variable in the RTP. So likewise, I given the user variable in the limits and have restricted the limit for the user entity. So then go to the presentation and click on the next slide. In the next slide, uses of user variable in the business world. Can you show me how to use the user variable in the business world? Yes, I will show the navigation. Then go to the application. So again, I am coming the business rules card and the after the clicking the rules card, the page will appear here and select the system view. Under the system view, you have to expand the EPM cloud under the my application name is Nokia and then expand the console and expand the rules card. On the rules card, you can see the predefined forms, which is FCCS underscore 10, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50, and 60. These all are the predefined rules, which is the custom names. These are the I have created earlier with manual. So I'm clicking on that actions and click on the new object. Then select the EPM cloud and Nokia and the console. Object type is rule. Rule name is I am giving the custom rule 5. So likewise I am giving and clicking save. It was ready for the open and for editing. So likewise I am creating and go to the system view. Earlier I have created the which is custom rule 4. Then I'm going to taking the for the reference. Here we can give the like device and I am creating the new one as for the business role. So here I am using the notepad for the my convenience and go to the presentation and in the this slide they have asked for the hard coding entity and using the user variable of the entity and using the sub variable of the entity and using RTP. So here is I am creating the for the all the requirements. First I am creating the hard coding entity. Then go to the notepad and fix entity and close it. Then and fix. Here is the next one is the using user variable of the entity. So I am giving the user variable of the entity and fix. Open and go to the user variable which is have given the earlier and I am copying this one. Ampersand and give the substitution variable also which is I have created earlier. Click on the substitution variable. I am taking the current month as a substitution variable and copy here and close it. Then and fix and go to the presentation on the fourth requirement is using RTP. So in here I am creating the using RTP which is I have created for the RTP in the business role and fix open and open brace. I'm selecting the RTP value in the value variable designer. So close brace and nfix, enter the nfix. Likewise, we can give the syntax for the custom file, custom rule file. So I'm copying this one. So likewise, I am creating this one. Go to the presentation. In this slide, they have asked for the hard coding entity I have created, and using user variable of the entity and using sub variable of the entity, I have created both the requirements and using the RTP. So I have created all the requirements in the custom 3. So go to the custom 4 and selecting the which is I have created earlier. For the reference, I have showing here, and then click and validate here and save it. It was starting validation, so it was saved and there is no error. And after the saving validate, the I am selecting the is hidden option because of it won't repeat the again in the entity. So I have created the user one and in current month. Likewise, we can create the entity to hidden the entity in the business rule. So select the is hidden and go to the deploy. So before that, you have to validate and deploy. It was deploying the objectives. So the deployment was successfully deployed. And close it. And go to the application and go to the rules card under the dashboard. So here is the I have created earlier as the custom rule 4. In here we can see the entity, user entity. So likewise we are using the user variable in the geography, total geography. So it was the taken the user entity as the we have created in the business. So then go to the presentation on the next slide. Using user variable in the smart view. So I will show the how to use the smart user variable in the smart view. So go to the smart view and give the credentials. Go to the form and refresh it. Before that, you select the any form. You have to select the options because of there is some suppress missing blocks enabled sometimes. If it was enabled, there is the form is not open in the ad hoc analysis. If there is any no data, so that's why I'm every time I'm checking for the suppress missing block. Here is the no enable checkbox. So that's why I am clicking OK and go back to the form which is I have created for the purpose of creating the user variables, and I'm clicking the ad hoc analysis. So clear the sheet and open the new sheet. Here is the likewise you can see the form which is the we have created, and there is the have selected the LE01. So I am using the rule which is have created in the user variable and go to the variables. In the user variable, I am selecting in this one and go to the smart view. So before that, I am showing which is the have enabled in the form for the status change or not. How to confirm. So in the layout and go to the preview. In here I have selected the LE01. That's why in the form is also it's showing the LE01. So after the changing the form, go to the preview and select the user entity, and I am taking the user LE03 and save. Then go to the user variable and go to the user preferences. So here is the I have selected LE03 because it was showing I have selected in the form. That's why it is showing also here also LE03. Then go to the form, give the which is I have created the user variable and give the ampersand. Then click on enter and refresh it. So likewise we have changed to user value in the smart view. So if you want to change any other entity, you can change it here and click on save. So then go to the form again and I am selecting and editing the form. Go to the layout, the preview. So here is the changed in the form also. So likewise we can give the user variable in the smart view. So for the purpose we are giving in the smart view, that was changing into entity member to member. So go to the presentation. That's it in the using the user variable in the smart view. In this session, I have explained in the topic. Concluded shows us the uses of the user variable in the following artifacts in the data forms and runtime prompt in the business rules and smart view. So that's it from my side, Kasturi.